Hi, and welcome to Whimsy Roo. My name is Samantha, and I am multi-passionate, meaning that I have about a dozen DIY crafty projects going on at any given time. Here we believe in a handmade life, from homeschooling to homesteading to home decor and everything in between. My daughters, R and E, are also on this adventure with me, so you'll see them from time to time. So come along with me for my adventure on building a backyard homestead in a urban city and all of the crazy DIY projects and homeschooling along the way. I can't believe it's been a year since my backyard looked like this. I moved my animals and container plants in and started building up my garden. I used these 2x6s to kind of protect my fence from rotting under the soil. Built 4 of these raised beds. And I was lucky enough to get a chip drop in my front yard, and before the HOA could notice, I laid down cardboard and covered it with a couple inches of the wood chips. This was in the middle of summer, so moving this from the front yard to the backyard was not the funnest thing I've ever done, but the results were pretty awesome. I transplanted some of my container plants and still had plenty more wood chips to even out this hill and make it easier to walk back and forth from the front yard to the back. I started my fall garden seeds and soon had so many things growing. I was even able to make a salad with vegetables from my own garden. Meanwhile, I was continuously adding nutrients to the garden. This is me mixing the rabbit litter into the wood chips and chopping up some spent plants to mulch into the wood chips too. In November, we had fun smashing up pumpkins from Halloween and then adding them into the wood chips as well. So back in November, I asked my neighbors to give me their jack-o'-lanterns that were starting to rot and that they didn't want anymore. I put them in our garden just around all of that compost that I had put out, all of those wood chips. And here they are now. All over there, and there, and there. Some of it was mulched into the beds, but I've pulled out. There. And there. And all over here too. I'm not sure if they will actually make pumpkins, but they are definitely adding much needed nutrients into this wood chip compost, so that maybe in another year I'll be able to plant directly in the ground here. I can't remember what I'm planting here. Probably more greens and maybe some flowers that need to overwinter. After Christmas, I mulched up my Christmas tree and a few others from my neighbors. I made a whole video on that I'll put up here. I added the pine needles to 2 of the 4 beds and scooped wood chips from the garden ground into the other 2. I did a little experiment. I'll tell you about that in a sec. This mulch put my beds to rest for the winter. I'm grabbing the last of my greens and covering my climbing rows before our first freeze hit. And yes, I'm using some of those pumpkins that did not get smashed to hold down the covering. When spring began to peek its head out, we checked on our worms and the progress that they had made. My daughter found this one that appears to be pregnant. Such a cool find. I'm starting my indoor seeds here. And then prepping my seed potatoes. Totally wrong. See, you're supposed to have at least 3 eyes, that's the little sprouty bits, per potato piece that you're going to plant. I know this. I knew this even then, but somehow I forgot the day that I started cutting and cut the pieces into 1 to 2 eyes instead of the 3 minimum. That's probably why I had a pretty small potato harvest. So I've just uncovered this bed. It had been covered with the Christmas tree trimmings. You can still see some of the smaller ones hanging out here. So I'm gonna push all of this aside to get to the soil here. I'm gonna do a soil test to see if this soil is more acidic than that soil over there, because this one had the pine needles covering it. That one has pine needles covering it, but the two on the ends did not have pine needles covering it. So I'm going to see if covering it over winter with pine needles made a difference in the acidity of the soil. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Well, at least not much. My soil test I did showed a 0.5 difference in pH levels, with the pine needles being higher. My seeds I started indoors were growing pretty well at this point, but I'm making another mistake here. See that brown water I'm using? It's a mixture that I thought was genius at the time. It's some of my old coffee grounds, some Epsom salt, and some ground eggshells all mixed into the water that I pour into the trays to bottom water the seedlings. This ingenious mixture might work well for established plants. I haven't tried yet, but the coffee in particular might have stunted my baby plants because there was too much acid and they just kind of stopped growing. This is a few weeks later when they started to look not too great. They slowly declined after that, and I ended up not having very many seedlings to put into the ground at all. Deeper into spring, I'm starting to see green, and we're starting more seeds. These clips are from my May garden tour, I believe, right before we were hit with a string of storms. Watch this, my only carrot I grew.
Purple carrot!
These green beans were amazing. I harvested almost 2 pounds in just that one day. Now this is some damage from a different storm that came through in early June. I lost a few sunflowers, but nothing too major. Please like and subscribe and share with others. I'm really trying to get this channel up and off the ground, and doing so really helps me out. I posted this video to my social media of me hand pollinating some pumpkin flowers. It felt super inappropriate. But look, I got some baby pumpkins out of it. They were some small ornamental pumpkins, I guess, because this is what I harvested. My first harvest of tomatoes and my tiny potato harvest. We already talked about what went wrong there. So I'm really proud of my garden and how far it has come in just a year. I can't wait to see what else I can do. See you next time.